G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Today, look what we've got on the bench. It is the Eachine Wizard X220, and a lot of people have been talking about this. Is it any good? Is it a high performance mini quad? Is the price point good? Well, I guess they've sent me one, so we'll find out. Let's have a look at it on the bench first and see what you get for your money. Well, I've got to say, there is quite a bit in the box. That has to be said. You're getting a transmitter. It's a FlySky, what is it, i6 or whatever it is, FlySky transmitter. The front of this one's a bit scratched up actually, due to the packaging or the lack of proper packaging. It's always been an issue with stuff from Banggood is the packaging. This was sent by Eachine themselves, so I don't know. I'd be a bit annoyed with my new transmitter having scuffs on the front, but who knows? And it's also branded iRange X, but it's FlySky. We know it's FlySky. You get a RunCam 3 or GoPro Session mount, which is quite good. And on the picture on the box, obviously it had a RunCam 3 on it. Whether you can buy one now, I don't know. You'll have to see. I think Banggood still have them listed, so maybe you can buy them. We'll find out if you order one. Comes with a Quickstart guide, so if you want to do a slow start, you won't be using this, you use something else, but it seems pretty reasonable. I did have a bit of a browse through it. It seems to cover most of the bases, but we will look at that a little later on. Now, also, here's the quad itself in lovely foam. It's got this sort of polyurethane foam, which seems to, it's done an adequate job of protecting the quad itself. Doesn't seem to be broken or damaged. One thing I was surprised to find is it comes with a 4-cell LiPo, 1500 milliamps, no 75C. Yeah, right. Who you kind of kid? Comes with a 4-cell LiPo. Don't get many things with LiPo these days because of the shipping issues, but this one came with a LiPo. Woohoo, great. Because this is going to be sort of like if you're just getting into mini quads, this is going to be one of these starter options. Like I looked at the Swell Pro, was it Swift 220, and the I've looked at a whole lot of them, and this is another one in that kind of lineup where people who haven't had mini quads before, so they just want to buy something, take it out of the box, charge it up, and fly it. This is the kind of thing we're looking at here. And nevertheless, we should be expecting some pretty good performance because let's take a look at the quad. It's a reasonable spec piece of kit. I can't get it out of the box. No, here we go. Let's take a little bit of a look at this in more detail. And here it is by Jingos. One thing, I don't know, it's got sides on it. You notice there's carbon sides there. That in the past has been problematic. I remember the original QA V250, when you put sides on it, it flew like crap, to be totally honest, because you have sort of, if you're going sideways and the air hitting these props is going to be blocked by the panels on the side here. It's going to be interesting to see how well that works, whether it affects the performance, because flight controllers have moved on a lot since the early days. Maybe the flight controller will be able to overcome the effects that these blanked out sides sometimes have with that high side profile. It's purple. Look how purple it is. It's purple. Woohoo! It's got a camera and pretty standard sort of a mounting thing. It says it's a CCD camera. We'll check it out because today's kind of overcast and cloudy, really bad conditions for cameras. So if it works today, it'll work any day. Interesting, they've obviously got a 4-in-1 ESC in here because they've just got the motor wires run right through. There's no ESCs on the arms, which is an interesting change. They've got the SMA connector. Is it SMA? RPSMA connector. So it's got the pin in it. There's a pin in that connector. RPSMA on here on a little bit of extension of the top plate. That's good. It's not going to bust up your FPV transmitter when you have a bit of a tumble, because some of them just have the board of the FPV transmitter poking out and snap. No good. This is a much better option, but I would like to have seen SMA. SMA is more of a standard than RPSMA. XT60, LEDs on the back for the turn signals. There you go, and all the other things, arming and all that sort of stuff. And here's your antenna. That's a bit how you're going, isn't it? It's a cable tie with the antenna on there. As I say, this has got the FlySky system, so one antenna, and I can see that getting awfully close to these props. We might have to have a look at that. Might have to heat this up with the hot air gun and straighten it, get it out of the way. Otherwise, it's probably going to get munched by those props. And motors, what have we got? We've got 2205s or 2206 motors. So this should have a bit of a peppy performance. 2300 kV, 2206. So yeah, we should be honking them with this thing. It should really have a bit of pep because it is a little bit porky. We'll put it on the scales in a moment. It's a little bit porky. Now, let me have a look here. One thing I've noticed immediately, because I have an eagle eye, is this top plate does not look like it's carbon all the way through. It's got this white edge here. Generally means it's fiberglass in the middle with carbon skin top and bottom. So that's a budget thing. I'll get the meter, we'll measure it and just see for sure. Right, here we go. I've set my meter up for continuity. Hopefully Hopefully you can hear a beep there in the background when there's continuity. So I'm going to check. I'm going to check this plates. Now, I should get a beep if this is true carbon. And I'll try and get the pin in the middle there. No, it's fiberglass. It's fiberglass, not carbon at all. Fiberglass with carbon skin. Is that important? Probably not, because this isn't the most expensive miniquad in the world. So, you know, there are going to be some issues in terms, they're going to try and save a bit of cost here and there. So that is a carbon glass composite, not a pure carbon composite. And let's see, what about this? What about the arms? Now, notice I've got a purple or blue, it almost looks blue here, on there, accent on there. And one thing I noticed, let's get the macro out, because I want you to have a look at these arms. Very, very interesting thing on these arms. Now, I hope it's going to be visible on here. See, there's a kind of a sandwich here. We've got a shiny layer and a dull layer and a shiny layer. I'm picking that this is also a kind of a composite, maybe with glass in the middle, but we'll use the meter and we'll find out whether that middle layer is conductive. If it's not, then it's probably not carbon. Let's try it out and see. Okay, here we go. I'm going to probe the top layer here, obviously the carbon layer, and listen for the meter. Okay, hopefully you can hear the meters working. I'm going for the middle layer now. Nothing. It's nothing on that middle layer, so I have a feeling that we have a carbon, probably fiberglass composite again for the arms, not carbon-carbon. Just to check that out, I'm going to try and go end-to-end, because sometimes with the unidirectional carbon, it won't conduct across, but it will conduct lengthwise. So I'm going to basically go in from the same side and see if I can get a conductor beep out of this thing with my meter. A bit hard here with the camera in the way, but we'll find out. Nothing there. If I go up to the next layer, yeah, we've got a connection there, but if I go down here, whoops, get it right. Hang on a minute. No, we don't seem to have anything in that middle layer. So can't be absolutely sure, but I'm thinking that this is a glass carbon composite, not a full carbon quad. That's, you know, is that a bad thing? Well, it's got to be built to a price, so you've got to make some sacrifices somewhere. It's one of the sacrifices they've made. I have no doubt that when I do my testing, we're going to find out whether it's strong enough or not. Okay, as I say, the motor's a 2206, which is quite a grunty motor, and these little LEDs here, a lot of people seem to like them. I've seen in other reviews they like these. When I'm flying FPV, I can't see these, so they don't make any difference to me, but hey, they're there. There's a buzzer, so obviously we're going to get the buzzing and beeping going on. It has an F4 flight controller, so it's sort of top-of-the-line flight controller, which is going to hopefully give us really good response. Inside here, there is a built-in video transmitter, which is selectable for power. If I can get it into shot, I probably have to go up a bit here. You can just see the metal can from the video, the 5.8 module in there. That's going to give us 25, 200, or 600 milliwatts, depending on what we choose to select, which is great. And it's got, I don't know how many channels. I'm going to look in the book. I mean, this is a bit silly, really. It's almost like trying to make it a selling feature. It has 72 channels. Seriously? 72 channels? I mean, okay, you don't have to use the channels that you don't want to, but if you look at this sheet here, hopefully it'll show up in the high definition. Some of them are way down at 53 or 5.33 gigahertz. I don't know if there's any receivers. Certainly no video goggles that I know of have a receiver that can receive any of this. So this is all kind of academic, a lot of this other stuff. Also, probably in many countries, rather illegal. But if you want to use it, it's there. If it's not, you don't have to. So you can't knock it for that. But is it a selling feature? I'm not so sure. As for the camera, let's look at the specs here for the camera. It says it's a CCD, which should be quite good. 800 TV lines, blah, blah, blah. I see no mention of wide dynamic range. So it'll be interesting to see how that performs today where the sky's quite overcast. Will it actually give us a decent picture? We'll find out towards the end of this video, I suspect. Right, so there we go. Has 2 battery straps, which is kind of good because there's no point in having one. The battery can skew around. Let's put it on the scales that don't show the blood and see how much it weighs. Now, I always weigh these mini quads with everything except the battery and perhaps the props. This comes with Pagoda Antenna. Look at that, Pagoda Antenna. That's got to be a bonus because the Pagodas work really well if they're made properly. I don't know whether this has been made properly or not. Looks okay from here. I've got some kind of rubbery stuff around there. I don't know whether that's going to affect the tuning or not, but I'm going to put that on the quad and we'll measure it without props first because props are an interesting thing. You get free props. Well, you pay for it, but you get props with this thing. Let's see what it weighs. Here we go. 351. So it's not light, but it's not that heavy, to be honest. It's, I was expecting it to weigh more with these fiber plates on the side and so forth and the big thick arms. So that's not bad. 352. Yep, I can live with that. And speaking of propellers, you do get a lot of propellers with this quad. What are they trying to tell me about my flying? And they're clearly labelled right hand and nothing. So it'd be nice to have an L on there, wouldn't it? Never mind. So let's have a look at these props. They feel actually kind of cheap and brittle to me. They don't feel very nice. That's a very stiff plastic, which is probably good from performance, but from a resilience point of view, I think these will break quite easily. Right, now the other thing I'm not chuffed about these props, look how big, look how wide the root is here. In reality, it's only the very outer part of the prop that actually does much of the work, because it's the part that's spinning most quickly. And if you were to draw a sort of a circle and do the area, the outer part of the tip there, that produces as much area on the prop disc as all this bit in here does. So this is what does the work. This just goes along for the ride and creates drag. So why are you making it so fat? So very fat in the middle here, because this is, if you look at the angle, look at the drag that steeply angled area of blade is going to produce when you're trying to accelerate from, or trying to rev these motors up from a low speed like you do when you punch the throttle. I suspect these are not going to be very efficient props because of that massive drag there. And also I suspect they're not going to be that poppy. You know, they won't respond as well to throttle as more conventional props. But we'll see. I could be wrong. It happens all the time. I think to fly these, I don't know that these are A, going to last long, B, going to be high performance, and C, whether you wouldn't want to just use some Dell or some Gem Fan or some HQ props to start with. But I guess we'll find out when we test fly it. In the meantime, back to these scales that don't show the blood, and I've put 4 props on. I haven't got the nuts on, but this is going to give us a closer indication of what this weighs. 376 grams. That's not too bad. I'm happy. I expected it would weigh a lot more than that, but it doesn't. Woohoo! Excellent. Now, one thing that made me chuckle is if you look in here, you can see there's a graduated like a degree gauge in there to show degrees from 0 through to 90. But there's no reference point, there's no arrow, there's nothing. How do you know? Because you can't, it's just I don't know, it's like kind of pointless. Because I don't know, there's no needle to follow the camera to tell me what I'm pointing at. So maybe it's in case I forget that 90 is straight up, 0 is out, and 45 is halfway. I don't know, but yeah, who knows? Just a thought. Now, one thing I know without even turning this on, because I've seen other people's videos on this thing, is that it comes set up basically with angle mode. Angle mode's all you get. And if you're a beginner, angle mode is probably all you need for a little while. So the switches do nothing. These do nothing. It's also set up to arm on a stick. I'm not such a fan of arm on a stick, and it has motor stop enabled, so it's kind of old school. It's pretty old school for a quad, but for beginners, it's probably not a bad setup. But you will need to make changes if you want to race this thing, if you want to fly, have some fun, do some good acro stuff. You'll need to do some changes. Now, I'm always keen to promote other people's channels and videos, and I'm going to link a video in below in the description of this video. You need to go and look at if you're going to buy one of these and you want to set it up properly, because it shows you how to hook it up to Betaflight, how to tweak all the settings you need to tweak, and how to get the most out of this combination. So do that. I think it's anti-RC, but don't quote me on that. Look at the link in the video. I'm always keen, as I say, to promote channels that deliver some really good content, and that does. So there you go. So I'm going to set this up. I'm not going to waste your time by doing everything other people have done. I'll set it up, and I think we'll take it out, give it a fly, just see how it performs. Okay, right now in the review, you should be seeing this model flying through the sky in my wonderful hands, doing all sorts of aerobatics, pirouettes, rolls, flips, etc. But you're not. Why not? Well, it doesn't work. Honestly, is it the reviewer's curse? I don't know. But that's why I've got the top off it, because here we go. I've got transmitters on, as you can see. It's all set up. Receiver, the little bind light's on, so the receiver's working. But if we go over to the Betaflight screen over here, actually let me just turn this around so we get a bit of a better angle on it. Let's go to the setup screen. As you can see, if I wiggle the quad, everything's working. It's actually connected, and that's fine. But when I go down to receiver and I move the sticks, nothing. There's no signal either coming out of the receiver, or the flight controller isn't seeing the signal. Yeah, what do you do? Now, I've had a bit of a play around, because I thought, well, maybe it's been set up incorrectly. It's I-bus instead of S-bus, or S-bus instead of I-bus. So I've tried the permutations. I have tried everything, and no, it's just not going to talk. So out of the box, it's really broken. Bugger. So what do? Well, I'm going to delve in a little bit further and see what I can find. But while we've got it out of the box, I'll just disconnect this. We'll have a look inside and see how well this thing's put together. Might as well take this as an opportunity to investigate the guts of the Eachine Wizard X220S. Now, as you can see, this has got fairly common these days. It's got the little stack here with the PDB and the 4-in-1 ESC and the flight controller and the video transmitter on top. I'm afraid the construction's a little bit disappointing, not only because it doesn't work, but if we take a little bit of a look in here, I might have to do a macro shot on this, but the wiring to the 4-in-1 ESCs is dodgy as hell. Look, this insulation on the blue wire here, let me use a pointer, insulation on the blue wire is way back there. So you've got all this area of exposed conductor pretty close to the red wire. And also these seem to be pulled very tight. There's not much slack in here, so I can imagine even an arm flex could possibly rip this wire from the board. It's disappointing but not surprising because, you know, the people who put these together aren't paid a hell of a lot of money. They're probably not highly skilled. They're just, you know, they've got a job they've got to do. So this is really how you're going. And even the wiring onto the flight controller, let me just pull the video transmitter board off here. We'll take a look at that. Where I'll just move the camera, hang on. The soldering where these are connected up is pretty dodgy in how you go. And it's not neat, it's not tidy, it's not what I would like to see on there. Yeah, I can only review what I'm sent. I don't know why I have to say this so often, but I can only review what I'm sent. And they sent me a broken one. Not a good start. But I'll play around and see if I can resurrect this, get it going, and then we can do a continued review. Hopefully I can, but at this stage it's either the receiver isn't putting out an S-bus signal, or the flight controller isn't recognising the S-bus, or the input port for the S-bus is buggered. So I'll see what I can do. We'll do a bit of poking around and see what happens. Okay, so there we go. I've put the scope on the output of the receiver. The S-bus signal is definitely coming out, or whatever it is, I-bus or S-bus, I don't know which they're using, but it's definitely coming out, going into the flight controller, but the flight controller just is not recognising it. Now, I tried playing around on Betaflight, tweaking whether it was an I-bus or an S-bus, and tried all the possible permutations, but nah, I think that flight controller, she's a dud. Okay, to make absolutely sure that I haven't overlooked anything, I hooked up a FreeSky X4R receiver to the flight controller, set up a model on my transmitter, and still absolutely nothing. If I go, I've got the Betaflight connected here, as you'll see. If I go into receiver, oops, where are we? Into receiver, and here's my transmitter, you can see nothing. So yeah, dead flight controller. Not a very good recommendation. And here's a bit more of a close-up look at that soldering onto the 4-in-1 board. As you can see, some of these wires here, the insulation is way back. That's not good. It's a simple thing. You know, they should have checked this sort of stuff. Look at this one here. Look, this is way back. You know, doesn't take much in there, and you've got a short on that phase. Then, poof, your 4-in-1 becomes a 3-in-1, which is kind of useless on a quadcopter. One of the downsides of having these 4-in-1s is, of course, if you do blow an ESC, you've got to replace the whole damn thing. You know, there's swings and roundabouts, they are more convenient. They do enable you to keep all the mass in the centre of the quad, which is quite useful because for best performance you want the centre or the mass to be as close to the centre as possible so you can have maximum roll, pitch and yaw from your motors. But there you go, that's what it looks like inside. Now, as I'm putting this back together, I've noticed a couple of other things which not that damn flash actually. We've got the video board here, and it has a nice little button for changing channels, bands, and power levels. But once you put the top on, you can't get at that button, and you can't see the display because the battery strap is in the way. I mean, you know, it's pretty how you're going, because I often find I have to change channels to fly with people that, you know, if you want to have a race or something and someone else comes along, you want to fly. This should be such an accessible control that you shouldn't have to remove the top plate, or because let's face it, taking the battery strap out, you're never going to get it back in without removing the top plate. So to change channels, you've got to take out 6 bolts. It's not very good. I'm not that impressed with that. Another thing that's really how you go, and I noticed when I was putting it together, is we've got cutouts on this side of the thing for the micro USB, so you can adjust the flight controller, and a card for your black boxing. On the other side, there's also a cutout, but what's it for? Well, actually, it's because this is a little bit too wide, and so the cable would hit the side, so they've cut that out, but the cable's going to rub on the edge of that carbon fibre. That's not really flash. And also down here where the cable protector comes up, the piece of heat shrink they've used to protect the wires doesn't go inside the hole, so the wires here have a chance of abrading on the edge of that sharp carbon, or glass carbon, And so why not run that heat shrink further in so that it's going to rub against the heat shrink and not the actual wires themselves. It's little tiny details that make the difference between an okay product and a really good product. In this case, the detail is a bit lacking. It's like so often I see things 90% there. You know, little tiny bit of extra work, just a little bit longer on there. Find some way of mounting this so you can adjust the channel or have the battery straps, thinner battery straps or something, and you've got a 100% product. But every time I look at a quad like this, I keep thinking, man, I really should design an RC Model Reviews mini quad. Not because I'm a good quad designer or a good flyer, but I would focus on these tiny details, the things that make a difference between having a model that's a joy to own and one that's a right raw pain in the ass when you want to do something as simple as change a channel, or something that fails because of the small details such as the soldering's not that good, or the heat shrink's in the wrong place. These tiny things which make a huge difference to your day. You know, you get out there, first flight of the day, a wire gets cut through, one of your ESCs and your 4-in-1 ESC controller goes, bang, how much you're paying then, you can't fly. It's detail. I mean, these are a low-cost product, you've got to admit. So one can excuse them perhaps for failing in the detail department. But you know, personally, if I was buying a mini quad, I'd rather pay the extra $50 and get one that I knew wasn't going to catch on fire, fall apart, or you know, wasn't a right royal pain in the backside to use because I had to take out 6 bolts just to change the video channel. So there you go. What an interesting week I've had. I reviewed the Runcam Split, which I really wanted to hate, but I ended up loving. And I've reviewed the Wizard X220S, which I really wanted to love, but ended up unable to even fly because it came broken, don't work, buggered the flight controller, she's toast. So there you go. What a wonderful world we live in, eh? So if Eachine want to send me a replacement flight controller, I will replace it. Bit of a pain in the ass, but I will replace it and I'll test fly it. Otherwise, this will go into the big plastic bin of things that never worked out of the box, which grows bigger every day, actually. It's quite amazing. You pays your money, you takes your chances. And in this case, no luck for me. I have to say, however, this was provided free of charge by Eachine. And, you know, me, I call it like it is. I guess some reviewers would have been tempted to say, oh, you know, I won't say anything. I'll get hold of Eachine, get a new flight controller. No one need ever know. Well, yeah, you know, that's not the way I work. I test what I'm sent to review, and if it doesn't work, or if it works really badly, I tell you. I may not get any more Eachine products after this, but hey, that's it. So thank you for watching. If you've got comments, questions, put them in the usual place, and I'll do my best to answer them. In the meantime, thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and now I'll get on, do some more stuff. Bye for now.